Live from the 607, it's the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour, where we're talking everything going on in the world of sports. Join in the conversation on social media with the hashtag ODPH, because here we go.
Instead of looking deep inside, every word I have to say, keep it simple.
Welcome to an all-new edition of the ODPH podcast, better known as the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour. What is happening, everybody? Thank you so much for joining us this week. My name is Ken M. You know me. I'm the host. But you also know the co-host. He's here every week. His name is Padawan J.
Let me talk to you.
Yeah, and boy, do we have a lot to talk about in the land of sports. When we were putting the show together, we thought it may be a pretty short episode. No. We have a lot to deep dive into in the land of sports, and we definitely want to keep that conversation going, don't we, Pat?
Yeah, the script writers heard that and went, bet.
Yep. So after the show, after everybody hears the episode and wants to keep that conversation going, Pat, where do they go?
ODPHpodcast.com.
Right on. You swing on over to the website, check out all the social media accounts, follow, subscribe, interact. That's what we love doing with all the ODPH Society, so we definitely want to have those conversations with everybody in between episodes. Also, check out the TeePublic store link. It is holiday time. There are sales happening here, there, everywhere. So you just have to keep your eyes open when things are going to be going on sale for some ODPH swag, and that's the best thing that we see. Not that we do any sales, but, you know, it's always cool just seeing the brand out there where people are supporting it in that manner. So it's always very cool to see, and TeePublic has been great with us, so you never know when stuff's going to happen on sale there. We have an idea, but that's why we just say you go to the website, click, and find out for yourselves. That's simple. Also, check out the Patreon link, one tier, $2 a month, and shout out to all our amazing patrons. Boy, do they have some bonus content this week.
Yeah, they do.
Just putting that out there. So if you want to find out what that's going on, well, you got to sign up. It's that simple. Also, check out the blog section where we always have reviews dropping on a wide variety of topics, a parlay of topics, if you will. Also, the directory. Pat, how many providers are we on?
114,000.
Sounds about right to me. He is the statistician to the stars, and I do not question that factual information. Never. Just putting it out there. Also, you can check out the classified section, which has friends of the show, such as 3FN Podcast, Dragon Master Games, Nerd Initiative. Boy, is there a lot going on over there. I wish I could talk about, but that's why we say you go over to their information, click on subscribe, follow, and you'll be caught up to date. And I won't have to spoil anything, and I won't have to get an angry email saying that I'm talking too much. Also, while you're at the website, check out the music section where we have information for Brian Wolf and the Howlers, Second Suitor, who just has a new single dropping this week. Floodlands, who has new music coming.
I'll say Brian Wolf announcing today he's making a run through Binghamton here in the near future.
Yeah, that's why I say there's a lot of moves happening there. So it's shout out the Robots and Thomas Olu are playing some shows together. That's a fantastic ticket. If you are able to see both of those groups live, go see them. Seriously, go tell them the ODPH sent you. It's great. Also, if it's anything and everything, it is the ODPH. Because I could keep rambling on about the website. You just go to ODPHpodcast.com. It's that simple. And always remember on social media to use the hashtag ODPHpod. But you came to hear some sports. We are here to talk some sports. Let's kick it off how we always do during the football season. And that is recap the week that was in the NFL with our locks and leaps. Pad, kick us off.
Yeah, so we're going to start with one of my locks, which was the Seattle Seahawks to defeat the Washington Commanders, which they did, and this was a goddamn video game, winning by the final score of 29-26. Geno Smith, 31 of 47 for 369 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Sam Howell, 29 of 44 for 312 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Brian Robinson Jr. led Washington in rushing with 8 carries, 38 yards, no touchdowns. Kenneth Walker III, 19 carries, 63 yards, and no touchdowns for Seattle. DK Metcalf led Seattle in receiving because, of course, he did. 7 catches, 98 yards, no touchdowns. Tyler Lockett and Kenneth Walker III both had a touchdown reception themselves. And then on Washington, Brian Robinson Jr. led the way for Washington. 6 catches, 119 yards receiving, 1 touchdown. Also got a shout out Antonio Gibson and Dwami Brown also got touchdown receptions themselves.
Well, this game went a lot of different directions, I thought. Seattle, we have said for quite some time, is flying under the radar, so to speak.
Again,
which is really crazy to think about. I mean, obviously, when you play in the same division as arguably the best team in football, the San Francisco 49ers,
yeah,
you're going to get overlooked. But at this stage, they're 6-3.
They're currently the 5 seed.
Yeah.
They're the highest, not a division leader seed in the NFC. Because, of course, first 4 are the division leaders, Philly, Detroit, San Fran, and then New Orleans. After that, you get into the non-division leaders, and Seattle's number 5.
Yeah, which is crazy to think about, that they're not getting enough recognition. And it's crazy because Geno Smith, has found it finally.
He's found the fountain of youth.
He's found something because he is playing very, very well. Kenneth Walker III is being very smart with his carries. And once you get the wide receiver core going, Seattle is a very, very tough team to beat. On the flip side here, though, I don't want to say this is a good loss because, let's face it, that's a very odd statement. But I have been seeing progression from Sam Howell with the tutelage of Eric Bieniemy.
Right.
So you are seeing Washington still in some games. Bum. Granted, they're not fully there yet.
The offense is carrying this team a lot.
Oh, yeah, completely. Well, when they decide to go trade away their best defenders, that's going to hurt you. But the fact that they were still in this game does speak volumes to the offensive side.
This you can even say that before they traded away some of their defensive stars. This team, if you look at the results this season, live and die by how their offense does. They beat Arizona 20-16. They beat Denver 35-33. Lost to Buffalo 37-3. Lost to Philly in overtime, mind you, 34-31. Lost to Chicago 40-20. Beat Atlanta 24-16. They lost to the Giants 14-7. Lost to Philly 38-31. Beat New England by 20-17, and then they lost to Seattle by 29-26. Like, they're giving up a lot of points each week, and it's a matter of, is the offense clicking? Because clearly, based off of those numbers, I read off to you, it's not exactly a shutout, lights out defense.
No, by no means, and that's the one thing that Washington needs to address this offseason.
Yeah.
The question is, will Ron Rivera still be the head coach then?
I would say yes, but on a very short leash.
That's the only big asterisk right now about how they're doing.
They're showing promise.
Yeah, they're showing a lot of promise.
They're showing that Sam Howell might be the guy for him. Now, will he get him over the summit to the promised land of a Super Bowl? Maybe not. Time will tell. That's why they play the games. But I think it's going to be with a short leash because it's like, okay, you're doing good and you're winning some games, but you're also 4-6.
Right.
The expectations were high, and has he met them? To me, he's gotten close. It's not a fireable offense. It's a, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt, but it's a fool me once, fool me twice type scenario.
Well, it's a situation that for Washington, eventually you have to turn the corner.
Yeah.
The Dan Snyder effect is gone.
Yeah.
So this season, as weird as it is to say, you're playing with no expectations.
Nope.
Because nobody knew how you're going to react to the changing of ownership. Next season is going to be the big telling sign right now. But I think for how they scrapped in this game, especially being in Seattle, which is notorious for its home crowd, I thought Washington made some good moves. I thought they have some potential to really make a run down the road.
They could.
But I think for this season, it's already done. But this is also against one of the premier teams in the NFL, and Seattle should get a lot of praise for how they're playing.
Oh. Excuse me, absolutely.
So we'll have to kind of wait and see how things move forward. But for Washington, a good loss, but something to really kind of draw some attention to free agents for next year.
There's a shot they could still make the playoffs. They're currently sitting at the 9 seed in the NFC with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers right ahead of them at 4-5.
Yeah.
So they could still make it in there. We'll see.
They could, but look at that schedule, and then that's the big question mark right now.
So the next couple of games for the Washington Commanders, they are at home against the New York Giants this upcoming Sunday. Then on Thanksgiving, they are on the road in Dallas. Week after that, they're at home against the Miami Dolphins, and then they've got a bye week in Week 14. And should note that to close out the year, they've got the Rams, Jets, 49ers, and Dallas. Yikes.
Yeah.
And then for the Seattle Seahawks this upcoming Sunday, they are on the road playing the Los Angeles Rams. Following that, they are on Thursday Night Football playing the San Francisco 49ers. Of course, that one is on Thanksgiving, so that'll be on NBC. That'll be the late game. Week 13, they are on the road playing the Dallas Cowboys. That one's on proper Thursday Night Football, so that one will be on Amazon Prime. And then Week 14, they're on the road again, playing the San Francisco 49ers. That one will be a late game on Fox for Week 14.
Yeah, so I think for Washington, their hopes, it's good to dream.
Yeah.
I will say that, but I think that schedule is going to be too much. I mean, Dallas twice, Miami. They're going to have some problems, especially on the defensive side of the ball.
For a team that has an issue stopping teams on defense and lives and dies by their offense, they're about to go up against two juggernaut offenses.
Yeah, they can't compete this year. Next year, maybe, but this year, not so much.
Speaking of living out your dreams, that's what the quarterback in Minnesota's got to be doing right now. One would say,
let's talk about this.
One would say he's living his Disney movie moment here. So my leap was the Minnesota Vikings to beat the New Orleans Saints, which they did by the final score of 27-19. Joshua Dobbs, 23-34 for 268 yards passing, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. Derek Carr did start this game, went 13 of 18 for 110 yards passing, no touchdowns or interceptions. He did leave at one point during the game, though, and went into concussion protocol, I believe it was. So Jameis Winston stepped in and went 13 of 25 for 122 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Alvin Kamara led New Orleans in rushing with 9 carries, 42 yards, no touchdowns. Ty Chandler led Minnesota in rushing with 15 carries, 45 yards, just 1 touchdown. And then in receiving, TJ Hawkinson led Minnesota in receiving 11 catches, 134 yards, just 1 touchdown. And then Chris Olave led New Orleans in receiving with 6 catches, 94 yards, and 1 touchdown.
Well, the story here is easy. Joshua Dobbs.
And he's doing this without Jefferson.
This is crazy to think about. I believe the stat line is Jefferson out of the lineup. They're 5-0 with him in the lineup. They're 1-4.
Yeah, it's something like that. He's been sitting on my bench on fantasy because I'm waiting for him to come back.
But
because if you think I'm dropping Justin Jefferson for fantasy, you're nuts.
I know a lot of fantasy football owners are waiting with bated breath to see when he's coming back. But in the meantime, though, Minnesota is quietly putting together some wins. Obviously, the Disney-like story that you're talking about with Joshua Dobbs continues onward.
Currently second place in the NFC North at 6-4, behind Detroit, who is 7-2. And then if you look at the playoff standings, they are currently in the 7th seed, right behind Dallas at the 6th with a record of 6-3.
Well, the one thing that Dobbs does better than Cousins is Dobbs does have a little more mobility.
Yeah. So
that does change the dynamic. Now, the big question moving forward, though, is how quickly are teams going to pick up on this? And that is going to be something that Minnesota and their offensive gurus are going to need to figure out quickly.
Right.
Because the story is great right now, but if you're going to make that run in the playoffs, and obviously everything relies on Dobbs to be healthy and carry them through, they're going to have to really show some different looks. They're going to have to do things a little differently. But they are winning where they need to be winning.
Right, and I mean, the stat line's sexy. I mean, 3 touchdowns between the two for his first 2 games with Minnesota and 426 yards passing. But there's always a but. It's against Atlanta, who is, as we record, sitting at 3rd place in the NFC South with a record of 4-6. And then it's also against New Orleans, who is sitting at actually in 1st place in the NFC South with a record of 5-5. So, not the best teams.
No, but they're doing what good teams do, and that's beat the lesser teams.
Yeah.
I mean, New Orleans, we said this year, I mean, arguably is in the worst division in all of football.
Yeah, they are. New Orleans is the only team in that division at 500, and they're in 1st place. Everybody else is below 500, and then there's the Panthers.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, there really isn't anything to talk about with New Orleans.
No.
They're not good. They're not bad. They're just there.
Jameis had a hell of a highlight when he first came in that game. That's a positive.
Yeah, I mean, but that's the only thing you can talk about with them.
Yeah.
But for Minnesota, that's where the story goes.
Yeah.
And now seeing how Dobbs has that offense moving is huge.
Maybe he's learned their names this week.
I would think so. Well, I think the one thing that with success, he's going to breed some content.
Yeah.
He is now going to have defensive coordinators analyzing his film and really making some adjustments. So this is where, to go back to the point I'm making with this, is like, this is great to celebrate now. The Disney story is there.
Yep.
However, in reality, they're going to really need to throw something different into the mix, and they're going to have to really deal with some competition coming down coming down the schedule.
Yeah.
If they're going to be contenders.
Yeah.
Because right now they're kind of borderline pretenders.
So looking at the team schedules the next couple of weeks, for the New Orleans Saints, they are on a bye week this week, and then they come out of that on the road playing the Atlanta Falcons. Then they're at home against the Detroit Lions, and then they're at home against the Carolina Panthers in week 14. For those Minnesota Vikings, this upcoming Sunday, they are on the road playing the Denver Broncos on Sunday Night Football. Then they're on Monday Night Football the week after that, at home playing the Chicago Bears. Then they're on a bye week in week 13, and they come out of the bye week on the road playing the Las Vegas Raiders in Vegas. That one is a late game on Fox.
Well, I think they'll start ramping up on the competition as they get past Chicago.
So you got Chicago bye week, then they got the Raiders, Bengals, and then the last 3 weeks of the season, Detroit, Green Bay, Detroit.
Yeah, that's.
By the way, did I mention Detroit's in first place right now?
Yeah, that's going to be the true test for them. Until then, hey, congratulations!
Yeah.
Keep riding that big, feel of energy, because you know what, it's a feel good story.
Mm-hmm.
So, like I say, enjoy the positivity.
Yeah,
because there's a lot to enjoy there, much like there is in Houston.
Yeah. Holy shit.
Which, I mean, this was my lock this week, not Houston. I went with Joe Burrow. I figured
Joey B.
Everybody was back on track. I said the C.J. Stroud experiment has to get slowed down somehow, some way against a contending team, and he continues to prove me wrong.
Jesus Christ.
And I tell you what, Houston is winning gritty.
Yeah, they are.
Let's talk about it.
So, yeah, Houston beat Cincinnati 30-27. C.J. Stroud went 23 of 39, 356 yards passing, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Joe Burrow went 27 of 40 for 347 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Joe Mixon led Cincy in rushing with 11 carries, 46 yards, just 1 touchdown. Devin Singletary led Houston in rushing with 30 carries, 150 yards rushing, 1 touchdown. And then for receiving, Noah Brown led Houston in receiving with 7 catches, 172 yards, no touchdowns. And Jamar Chase led Cincinnati in receiving because, of course, he did. 5 catches on 6 targets, 124 yards receiving, 1 touchdown. Oh, by the way, Tyler Boyd on 12 targets made 8 catches, 117 yards, and no touchdowns. Good Lord.
Yeah, this is wild.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no other way to describe it. This was a real video game.
This is like Rock'em Sock'em Robots.
But the C.J. Stroud experiment is proving a lot of people wrong. Yours truly.
Yours and mine.
Yeah, because I honestly didn't think he was going to be playing this well. This is a huge win for Houston. Absolutely huge. This was gritty. Albeit, though, Cincinnati, I have more questions coming out of this game.
Sure.
That I was originally thinking we were going to have. But for Houston, this is the narrative. Their young draft picks are really stepping up. They're playing with no regard. They're leaving it all on the field. They're exciting to watch. And granted, a lot of them are not your big headline grabbers, but they're going out and they're balling.
Yeah.
And that's what you want as a fan. And if they can carry this forward, I'm not saying playoffs are out of the question.
Right.
I'm really not.
Right.
And if they get in, they could be a sleeper team to pull some upsets. I'm not saying punch their ticket to Vegas for the Super Bowl.
Right.
But what I am saying is they could make a run if they keep playing like they're doing.
Yeah.
And they're going to give teams fits as the season is progressing now.
Yeah, and the stats we got to give Stroud his due. The numbers this dude is putting up is absolutely insane. So for the year, he has 2,626 yards passing, 15 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. The rookie record for passing yards in a season was set by Andrew Luck in 2012. So he's got a little bit of a way to go there. But if you look up, the most passing yards by a rookie in a season, he's getting close to starting to enter the conversation because Teddy Bridgewater in 2014 passed for 2,900. So he's right there. But then you look at for the season, he being CJ Stroud is number 2 in the NFL in passing yards behind Sam Howell at number 1.
Yeah.
Which is insane.
That's insane. It's insane to think about, but like I say, when you are not being considered a legitimate contender,
right,
there's a big chip on his shoulder. And I think for him too, especially being the second pick overall, that can motivate some people.
Well, and especially like you said, but chip on his shoulder going to a team where it's like, okay, yeah, you're going to suck for a few years, so get ready to suffer. And he turned around and went, let's see about that.
Yeah, which I applaud him for. That's something you want as a leader on that team.
Yeah.
And as a fan, you want to get motivated by this. So there's a lot of upside with Houston right now.
Yeah, because he's got him right now in second place in the AFC South, 5-4 record behind Jacksonville in first at record of 6-3. And then if you look at the playoff standings, Houston is currently the 7th seed.
Well, like I say, if they can keep this momentum up. I'm not saying they can't overtake that AFC South, and that could be a huge game for them if they can get a home field game out of this.
I mean, clearly they've got their guy at quarterback. The running game seems to be working for them. Get a couple more pieces on receiving because Noah Brown, if I'm not mistaken, is a tight end. And Dalton Schultz was their number 2 receiver with 4 catches, 71 yards. So, it's fine. It'll win you games with 2 tight ends being your leading receivers, but you got to go get a number 1.
Oh, fully agree.
So we'll see what happens.
And on the flip side, I would be a little concerned if I'm the Bengals. And this is where I'm going with this. Houston is not supposed to be on your level.
Right.
CJ Stroud is playing out of his mind. But the fact that you gave up on your defensive side of the ball 150 yards rushing and 172 yards receiving, that's a little scary. And these are all 2 individual players.
I mean, the only thing I can think of is I'm looking at Cincy's schedule. Maybe they didn't take Houston that seriously because hey, they're rookie quarterback, not a lot of stars on offense, and they got a division rival next week on a short week. Maybe they got caught looking.
I think they did, and they cannot afford to do this. Like, that's the one thing about the AFC. It's very, very close in those playoff spots that you can't overlook anybody.
I really think they got caught looking because you go into halftime, it's 10-7 Houston, and you're going, oh, okay, whatever. But then both teams score 20 points the remainder of the game, 10 in the third for both, 10 in the fourth for both. I wonder if at some point, maybe around halftime or right after halftime, they went, oh, shit, like, these guys are for real.
Well, more than likely, yeah. But that's the situation. You can't rely on your team to turn it on in the second half. Like if you try doing that as a regular thing, you're going to have a very short playoff stint. And I think with Joe Burrow, yeah, he's playing very well, but he's still recovering from his injuries. And his wide receiver core, I mean, yeah, Jamar Chase always open.
Yeah, 24/7.
Yep, Tyler Boyd had a great game.
Yeah,
but consistently.
Not the case.
It's not going to be the case. Like, usually you have one of those 2 step up and really take over.
Right.
The fact that, yeah, you put up that many yardage in the sky.
Again, it's Houston, though. So
it's exactly.
To be expected.
It's to be expected. But that's why on the flip side, your defense needs to make a play, and they need to shut down a rookie quarterback. And it didn't.
Right.
When you only have 1 sack on him the entire game and 4 QB hits, that's a little pause for concern.
It's not good.
Because on the flip side of things, Houston had 4 sacks, 9 QB hits.
Right.
That's an easy math equation to figure out.
Yep.
And especially for Cincinnati, which your whole division right now is in the playoffs. You can't take games like this for light. And this is something that they're going to need to fix soon.
Yeah.
If they're going to be contenders. But this was the glaring thing for me is their defense let Houston hang around and then overtake them late in the game.
So looking at the schedule the next couple of weeks for Cincinnati, as I alluded to, this upcoming Thursday, they are on the road playing the Baltimore Ravens. Week 12, they are at home against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Week 13, on the road playing the Jacksonville Jaguars. That one will be on Monday Night Football. Week 14, they are at home against the Indianapolis Colts. And then for the Houston Texans, this upcoming Sunday, they are at home against the Arizona Cardinals. Then they are at home against the Jacksonville Jaguars for Week 12. Week 13, at home against the Denver Broncos. And then Week 14, on the road playing those New York Jets.
Well, those will be some interesting games as we move forward. But speaking of interesting teams, and we talked about the AFC North.
Yeah.
How about those Pittsburgh Steelers?
Woof.
This is blowing my mind.
Yeah.
That they are 6-3 right now.
6-3 with the exact same record as the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah.
Just want to point that out.
Yeah, which, I mean, talk about a tale of 2 different teams.
Which I love that meme I saw, and I know I shared it on social media.
With John Daly?
So it's got Tiger Woods in his professional golf attire, and then it's got John Daly in front of him in his usual golf attire, which is the most outrageous outfit you can see on a human being on a golf course. and it's John Daly smoking his traditional cigarette, and it's got the same record.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy to think about, but that's where we are. The Steelers have been one of the biggest surprises this NFL season.
Yeah.
And let alone going up against those Green Bay Packers, which...
All you need is love.
Well, you know what? They almost pulled it off, but unfortunately, love was not enough.
Came up a little short, a little late. So Pittsburgh won by the final score of 23-19. Kenny Pickett, 14-23, 126 yards passing. No touchdowns or interceptions. Jordan Love, 21-40, 289 yards passing. 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. A.J. Dillon led Green Bay in rushing with 9 carries, 70 yards, no touchdowns. Jalen Warren led Pittsburgh in rushing, 15 carries, 101 yards rushing, 1 touchdown. Najee Harris also went 16 for 82 with 1 touchdown in the rushing side. George Pickens led Pittsburgh in receiving with 3 catches, 45 yards, no touchdowns. And Jaden Reed led Green Bay in receiving with 5 catches, 84 yards, just 1 touchdown. Oh, by the way, if we were given receivers a rating, he'd have a perfect receiver rating. 5 catches, 5 targets.
Yeah. It's crazy to think about, but
check your waiver wires.
Yeah, something to consider. Like it's wild to think about, but yet here we are with this, and especially for Pittsburgh, they're winning very gritty.
They're winning the Pittsburgh Steelers way.
Yeah,
it ain't sexy, it ain't pretty, but damn it works.
And especially they have Jalen Warren in the equation too, because I mean Najee Harris had a great day.
Yeah. Average 5.1 yards a carry.
But when you can have that problem of 2 A-list running backs taking over games for you.
Or say when you can have 2 running backs combined for 11.8 yards per carry, that's pretty damn good.
Oh, it's amazing. It's a huge thing. And
I think if you ask the other 31 offensive coordinators in the NFL, would you like to have 2 running backs average 11.8 yards per carry? They're like, yes, please.
And then on the defensive side of the ball, I mean, TJ Watt had a great day with 1 sack, 2 QB hits. I mean,
another news, water's wet.
Yeah, but when you can have that, perfect marriage of offense and defense really impose a will.
Yeah.
And granted, Jordan Love played well, but not well enough.
It's growing pains.
But it's something he's going to have to learn because, I mean, obviously the Packers are not a great team. I think it's being a very honest statement.
Yeah, they really don't have a lot going for them.
No, so if they can make some moves in the offseason, that would help.
Depends on cap space.
I mean, their GM is going to have to figure that out. But
yeah, they'll have to take some team-friendly deals, that'll really work for the team.
They're going to need to do something because obviously they're being surpassed in that division.
Yeah.
By at least 2 teams right now.
So looking at the NFC North, the Packers are currently in 3rd place with Detroit and Minnesota ahead of them, and then Chicago behind them, although right behind them at 3-7.
So, I mean, that's something that if they really want to contend and do something moving forward, they're going to need to.
Yeah.
It just depends if they can actually pull it off.
Yeah.
But for the Steelers, this is where the story goes because it's a tough win. It's one that they needed.
Yeah.
And they're looking like the Steelers of old per se. I'm not going to say crown them, but...
If you want to crown them, crown their ass.
But they're playing very well, and that's something for this team that was written off this year.
Yeah.
That's a huge win to take home with them.
Hey, Steelers currently sitting at the number 5 selection or 5 spot in the AFC playoff picture. Looking at these 2 teams and their schedules the next couple of weeks for those Green Bay Packers, this upcoming Sunday they are at home against the Los Angeles Chargers. Then on Thanksgiving they are on the road playing the Detroit Lions. That'll be the 12:30 game. That'll be Eastern. That'll be on Fox. Week 13 they are at home against the Kansas City Chiefs. That one will be on Sunday Night Football. And then week 14 they are on the road on Monday Night Football playing the New York Giants. Then for the Pittsburgh Steelers, this upcoming Sunday, they're on the road playing the Cleveland Browns. Then week 12, they're on the road playing the Cincinnati Bengals. Week 13, they're at home playing the Arizona Cardinals. And then week 14, at home against the New England Patriots on Thursday Night Football. That one's Prime Video, I should say.
Well, we'll have to see how the Steelers do moving forward. I think for the Packers... It's been a nice run.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, 3-6, and especially in your division, you're not going to get any further than you are right now. But if they can entice some free agents to come there next season, I mean, a lot can happen in the offseason. So, I mean, as long as they're looking like a competitive team, that's a big win. And that's the only thing you can look forward to in this case.
Yeah.
So before we get out of here, we got to take a quick lap around the league. So let's do it, Pat.
Yeah, so the Thursday night game had the Chicago Bears defeat the Carolina Panthers 16-13.
Well, Carolina is Carolina.
Yeah.
I mean, nothing you can really say other than that. And for the Bears, I mean, let's face it.
Seth Rollins is happy.
Yeah, that's the only thing you can really look forward to. I mean, Tyson Bagnet, he looked good.
162 yards, no touchdowns though.
Yeah, I mean, but like I say, he looked a lot better than he did the week prior.
Yeah.
And even though the stat line is not great,
Yeah.
a lot better than how it's looking on the Carolina side of things.
Then you had the Tampa Bay Buccaneers beat the Tennessee Titans 20-6.
Yeah, surprised at this one.
278 and 2 touchdowns from Baker. Oof.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
That's a crazy stat line.
Yeah. The San Francisco 49ers defeated the Jacksonville Jaguars 34-3.
Niners doing Niner things.
Oh, my God.
I mean, the only thing here is Christian McCaffrey did not score a touchdown, broke his consecutive scoring streak of 17 games, I think.
Comes close, if not tying the NFL record. He does not break the NFL record.
Still wild, man.
Then you had the Cleveland Browns defeat the Baltimore Ravens on a last-minute field goal kick, winning 33-31.
The Browns might be for real.
Yeah, it could be.
I mean, their defense is playing insanely good.
Browns currently in the number 6 seed.
Yeah, which, I mean, Myles Garrett is carrying a lot on this team. Offensively, different story.
Yeah.
I mean, Deshaun Watson, not the Deshaun Watson of old, but somehow, some way, this team is putting up points. So take it as a win.
You had the Arizona Cardinals defeat the Atlanta Falcons 25-23 in Kyler Murray's return.
Who is Atlanta?
What is Atlanta?
Atlanta took a big L here.
Yeah, they did.
Very bad loss for them.
Well, it's not about Atlanta in 23.
Yeah, it's a bad number. Dot.
You had the Detroit Lions beat the Los Angeles Chargers 41-38.
Great win for Detroit because the Chargers, we've always said, is the most inconsistent team in all of football.
Yeah, they are.
The fact that Detroit went to L.A. and won late, showing signs of promise like we've been waiting to see from this team. But I love the energy they're bringing, and I love how they won this game. So hopefully they can carry it moving forward. Really like what I'm seeing out of Detroit.
I'm going to stick with one of the later afternoon games here for last before we get to our teams, because that one you got to give it some time. But the Sunday night game, you had the Las Vegas Raiders defeat the New York Jets 16-12.
Well, talk about a change of philosophy.
Antonio Pierce, 2-0.
This team is winning gritty. And I know I've used that statement before here, but this is true Raider football.
Yeah, it is.
And they're winning, like how they're just going about it, even when the Jets look like they were going to somehow steal this, the Raiders are finding ways to win.
Let's see. At halftime, it was 9-6 in favor of the Jets. By the end of the third quarter, it was 9-9. Offense optional in this game, clearly. And then you had the touchdown from the Raiders in the fourth quarter, whereas the Jets could only put up a field goal.
Well, the big thing here is the Raiders' defense came alive when it needed to. And the fact that they really held in check a Zach Wilson who played a great game.
Yeah.
Like, that's the one thing that people are forgetting about this because, like, much like in wrestling, you only remember the finish. You don't remember everything else.
Yeah.
In this situation, Zach Wilson played very, very well.
263, no touchdowns, 1 interception.
And let's face it, he almost had that Hail Mary at the end.
Yeah, if he'd have thrown it slightly further and the other receiver had realized what was going on.
Exactly. If his other receiver realized what had happened, Garrett Wilson would have had that catch. And it would have been a whole different ballgame.
But you can only see so much with the helmet on.
Exactly. So it's something to keep in mind. But the big stat line for me, Breece Hall, 13 carries, 28 yards.
Yeah.
Dalvin Cook, talk about a fall from grace.
Cook ain't been doing
nothing.
Squat this year.
Nothing. Four carries, 26 yards.
So for the season, Breece Hall has 107 carries, 521 yards, only 2 touchdowns. Fantasy owners got to be fuming.
Oh, absolutely.
And then Dalvin Cook, 47 carries, 147 yards rushing, 0 touchdowns. And mind you, folks, we're in week 10.
Oh, yeah. Like I say,
do the math. 147 divided by 10.
So
yikes.
This is not all on Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson played very well, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah. No, Zach Wilson, in my opinion, exceeded expectations.
Oh, completely here. But give credit to where credit is due. The Raiders' defense really stepped up. And on the offensive side of the ball, Aiden O'Connell is not the guy.
No.
completely.
No.
Like
153 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception.
He's not moving the needle for anybody. But when you have Josh Jacobs take over a game,
Yeah, 116 yards rushing, fucking no touchdowns.
especially late in the game, he took over. And and that's what the Raiders needed.
Right.
And especially they got Devontae Adams finally involved in the game.
Hey, listen. Antonio Pierce had the perfect explanation for this. I know who my number one guy is. I know who I need to get the ball to.
Oh yeah, Pierce he gets it.
Yeah.
And I hope, I am saying this publicly, I hope he gets the job very quick as a permanent.
Oh, I do too.
Because in 2 games, this team looks different.
Night and day.
Yeah. Even if the scoreboard might not reflect it. He's 2-0, sure.
Yeah.
And they're winning close games. But this team looks motivated. They look scary.
Yeah.
The only thing that doesn't, move anything is O'Connell.
Yeah.
But you know what? I can take care of that. That I can handle that. But that said, man, this team is looking good. So
They'll have a real test the next 2 weeks, though. On the road playing the Miami Dolphins this upcoming Sunday, then at home against the Kansas City Chiefs.
I will say this. I think I'm not going to.
They'll split that. How that splits, it's up to you to decide.
I think they take the Raiders, the Chiefs.
Ooh.
I think they take them.
Okay.
Miami, the only question mark I have with this defense is their secondary.
Yeah.
And keeping up with Tyreek Hill and Waddle.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's my only question mark with the Raiders.
Yeah.
But I will say this. I'm not saying that they're going to lose intentionally. Never the case here.
Right.
But I would say out of the 2 games, I will say that the Raiders are looking forward to that Chiefs game more than Miami. So if somebody gets overlooked and they look bad against Miami, I could understand why that some players might not Pierce. But I will tell you, this is like when any coach goes to the AFC East,
right?
And it's you have to beat New England. You have to do that.
Yeah,
that's a situation. So I'm just saying this. I'm not doubting Vegas beats the Chiefs.
Yeah, no, it could be.
Just putting that out there.
So lastly, before we get to our teams, how about them Cowboys?
Oh, how about them Cowboys?
I think the only person that enjoyed this win more than our good buddy Dre Driven is myself. I had to sit Jalen Hurts this week because Philly's on a bye. Who did I start? Dak Prescott.
Same here.
Holy fuck, I'm looking pretty. Dallas whooped, sorry Giants fans, Dallas whooped the absolute shit out of the New York Giants, 49-17 at one point by halftime, because the Cowboys had already played the Giants this season. By halftime, the Cowboys had outscored the Giants 68-0.
Yeah.
Before the Giants even scored a point on him in the third quarter. So Dak Prescott, 26-35 for 404 yards passing, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception. Tommy DeVito, 14-27 for only 86 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Saquon Barkley led the Giants in rushing with 13 carries, 66 yards, no touchdowns. Rico Dowdle led the Dallas in rushing with 12 carries, 79 yards, 1 touchdown. Dak also had a rushing touchdown. CeeDee Lamb also had a rushing touchdown. And then you get into the receiving core. Holy fuck, was this like a buffet for these guys. Brandon Cooks led Dallas in receiving with 9 catches, 173 yards passing, averaged 19.2 yards catch, 1 touchdown. CeeDee Lamb went 11 for 151 yards receiving, averaged 13.7 yards a catch with 1 touchdown. Michael Gallup also got in it with 2 catches on 2 targets, including 1 dime of a catch. Holy shit.
Oh, yeah.
That was gorgeous. 70 yards with only 1 touchdown. And then on the Giants side of things, it was Daniel Bellinger led them in receiving with 2 catches, 34 yards. This team set all sorts of records that I can't even get into because we don't have time for. It was like the most yards they put up against, the Giants. It was the most yards they put up against a divisional rival and whatever. Like, I know at one point there was like a stat thrown up that was like the most something since like 1962.
Yeah.
Which was fucking absurd. For the team, they had 640 total yards of offense. It was absolutely insane.
This game shows 2 things. One, Dallas is very streaky.
Yeah, they are.
And CeeDee Lamb saying he's the best receiver in football. Listen, if I'm against the Giants, I could probably put up 5, 70, and maybe 1. Just putting that out there. Because the Giants are clearly the worst team in football.
Well, I don't know about that, but they're not good.
I mean, who else do you say is worse?
New England.
No, I'll say the Giants. If the Giants had to face New England's winning by 10.
Oh, hold your beer because that's happening in 2 weeks.
Like I said, we'll wait. We'll wait and see. But I'm going to tell you right now, I think that New England's going to take him. The problem with the Giants is, other than Saquon Barkley, nobody is doing anything on the offensive side of the ball.
That's true.
And DeVito is not the guy.
No, he's really. I appreciate the commentators trying to paint him, and they're not trying to bury the kid.
Right.
And the broadcast were like, "Oh, you really got to figure out if he's going to be the guy." Like, dude, when he came into the game, when Tyrod went down with the injury, they did not let him complete or attempt a pass until overtime.
Mm-hmm. Oh, exactly. I mean, they understand. I mean, everybody understands the situation. I get it. But this is a situation for the Giants that on the defensive side of the ball,
yeah,
you have no identity.
Nope.
And the fact that Dak tore you apart, that speaks volumes. Now, not saying that Dak is a bad quarterback. He's really not.
Right.
But the fact that he was putting up video game numbers against you, and literally your defense looked lost covering the wide receiver core, says enough. And this is a situation for New York, which we've been saying this for a while now. I'm going to keep saying it. The honeymoon phase with Dabble is over.
Yeah, it is.
So with him and Sheen in the office, they got to go get some players to come in there. Because if you're trying to rebuild through the draft, this is not working.
Nope.
And the fact that you signed Daniel Jones and because you didn't go all in on Aaron Rodgers or whatever the case was, listen, that was a mistake. That's still haunting you. If you lose Saquon Barkley at the end of the year, that's going to hurt you as well.
Listen, they decided to give Daniel Jones that monster contract. They decided to give that offensive lineman that monster contract. Meanwhile, your only fucking producer on offense is sitting there on basically a franchise tag.
Yeah, which makes no sense.
It's not a franchise tag in name, but let's face it, it's a 1-year deal. It's a franchise tag.
It's a franchise tag that he's going to say thank you and then leave. Because he's played very well under Dabble, but you still have no offensive line to give him time to run.
Yep.
And until you do, the Giants are not going to do anything, period. Dallas looked great, and this is what a good team does, and even in division, this still was a statement win that Dallas wants to get some headlines back from Philly.
Oh, yeah.
And you know what? That's why we're going to keep watching them as we move forward, because Dallas looked great for what they had. I mean, sure, they've had some injuries, had a really, really bad one there. Yeah, I absolutely hated hearing the news about Leighton Van Der Esch. That he's, I mean, obviously out for the season, but they're saying
could be done.
It's possibly career injury.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I never want to see that with anybody.
No, you definitely don't.
No, so... But Dallas, I mean, is moving on, and they're looking good for what they have. Their backups are stepping up.
Yeah.
Like, I know their secondary has been very depleted. Yeah. So this is a question now that can they contend when we get to the postseason?
I mean, they got a fairly winnable schedule until you get to the last 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And then it's fucking murderer's row there. So they got Carolina, Washington, and Seattle in the next 3 weeks. Then they've got Philly, Buffalo, and Miami.
Well, it depends on what happens with the Bills, but that's a whole different ball of wax.
Yeah.
But Dallas, if they can contend, I mean, they just got to get in the playoffs, and then anything is possible. But a lot is going to come down to how that defense steps up against the league competition.
Yeah.
When they have to face the Phillies and the San Franciscos, that's going to be the real challenge. And we have to wait to see how it pans out there.
So then let's talk our two teams. Let's start with the Patriots first, because there really ain't much good to say about this game. They lost to the Indianapolis Colts 10-6. Gardner Minshew 18-28 for 194 yards passing, no touchdowns, 1 interception. Mac Jones, 15-20, 170 yards passing, no touchdown, 1 interception. Was benched for Bailey Zapp, although by that point it was too little too late. Zapp went 3-7, 25 yards, 1 interception that was like the most egregious bullshit I've ever seen in my life. Ramondre Stevenson led New England in rushing, 20 carries, 88 yards, no touchdowns. Decent game from Zeke, 13 for 54. Jonathan Taylor led Indianapolis in rushing because, 23 carries, 69 yards, nice, 1 touchdown. Michael Pittman Jr. led Indianapolis in receiving, 8 catches, 84 yards, no touchdowns. Demario Douglas led New England in receiving with 6 catches, 84 yards, and no touchdowns. I mean, listen, it's more of the same. Mac ain't that dude. The offensive line is absolute hot garbage. Sacked 5 times for a loss of 22 yards. He got hit 9 times. I mean, now, I guess you can asterisk. I did read for whatever reason, and I don't know why, and I'm not going to even speculate why, the offensive line coach did not make the journey over to Germany for some reason. I'm not going to sit here and say it was this reason, that reason. I haven't read what it is. All I know is the offensive line coordinator did not make the trip over to Germany, so could that have played for a reason why the offensive line has been shit? Maybe, but they've been shit all year, so why change now? And then what didn't help is, he gave up a fumble from Hunter Henry. David Andrews recovered one, but David Andrews recovered it. The team sucks. About the only good thing going is if you look at tankathon.com/NFL. Right now, the Chicago Bears have the number 1 overall draft pick by way of the Carolina Panthers. The New York Giants are sitting at second place with a weaker strength of schedule. So they have the number 2 overall pick, and the New England Patriots currently have the number 3 overall pick right behind them. So, which is why I say Patriots are on a bye week this week. Coming out of the bye week, they play the New York Giants. This could be the most important toilet bowl game you've seen in the NFL this year because let's face it, this is for potentially the number 2, if not the number 1 overall pick.
They need to flex it to Sunday night.
Oh, God.
Yeah, they need all the eyes on it they can handle. Honestly, there's nothing good to say about this game. Patriots are awful. The Colts are not much better, but at least Jonathan Taylor did something on my fantasy team, so
that's true.
I'll take it as a win there. That's all I really need to say about that one.
Boy, howdy, then we got one last game, and I know everyone listening has been waiting for this one.
Put the disclaimer on for this one.
The thoughts, views, and opinions of that are of Ken M. and do not necessarily reflect that of the ODPH. Listener discretion is advised. Let me get this out of the way just so you can stew a little bit more. So the Denver Broncos defeated the Buffalo Bills 24-22 on Monday Night Football, with Russell Wilson going 24-29, 193 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Josh Allen went 15-26 for 177 yards passing, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. James Cook led Buffalo in rushing with 12 carries, 109 yards rushing, 0 touchdowns. Latavius Murray and Josh Allen both had rushing touchdowns. For Denver, it was Javonte Williams with 21 carries, 79 yards, no touchdowns. Cortland Sutton led Denver in receiving with 8 catches, 53 yards, 1 touchdown. Gabe Davis led Buffalo in receiving with 2 catches, 56 yards, and no touchdowns.
All right.
Okay.
So the easiest things to say here is, 1, Buffalo is not making the playoffs.
Nope.
I'm going to say it right now. 5-5, they would need a ton of luck to get there. But the biggest problem that we have is not Ken Dorsey, who's been fired.
Mm-hmm.
Because Dorsey was the offensive coordinator last season.
Yes.
So for everybody that's pinning it on him, it's not all on him.
Yeah.
It's a team sport.
The gentleman now stepping in for offensive play calling duties is a gentleman by the name of Joe Brady, who was number of positions, but most recently was with LSU in 2019, was the passing game coordinator and wide receivers coach, and then he was the OC in Carolina from 2020 to 2021 before he joined Buffalo in 2022 as the quarterbacks coach.
Mm-hmm. So the biggest issue I have here is it is a complete offensive dysfunction.
Mm-hmm.
And it primarily goes on one Josh Allen.
You mean Brett Favre?
Mm-hmm. Oh, he played bad Brett Favre all game here. And for whatever reason, and still to this day, I don't know. I don't know if he's just now bought into his whole, larger than life persona to the media.
He's the greatest thing since sliced bread.
If it's something like that, if it's, obviously being a little more high profile, that's now getting to him, because it doesn't seem like he's doing that from the people I know up in Buffalo.
I mean, for those of you outside of the state of New York, this might be hard to understand, but he is beloved by the folks up in Buffalo. When you go around towns, and even in our area, and we're, what would you say, probably 3.5 hours? 3.5 hours away from Buffalo. So we're driving distance, but I wouldn't say it's necessarily in like the heart of Bills country. We're kind of in this amalgamation of all 3 teams, the Jets, the Giants, and the Bills. But when you go out and you see Buffalo merchandise, be it shirts, apparel, hats, or even like decorations for your house or apartment, it skews towards Josh. I know I've seen some stuff where it's like, oh, Allentown, in Josh we trust, It's just like, yeah, sure, you see some stuff with like Von Miller and other stuff and all this stuff, but like he's beloved, and you gotta wonder, and I sit here and wonder too, is it getting to him?
Oh, it is. It completely is. Like, let's not sugarcoat it. It's getting to him to the point that he feels he has to put up highlight reel throws every single fucking game.
Yeah.
Every single game.
Yeah.
And the one thing that he's regressing at is he's not letting the receivers get open.
Right.
He has it locked in like he was on Madden to throw it to a receiver the minute he gets the ball in his hand. He's not even looking to see if they're in coverage.
Right.
And that is the biggest problem, because what he was doing last year, which everybody was praising him for, is he was standing in the pocket, he was letting receivers get open and making plays with his legs a la a Ben Roethlisberger, which makes sense for his size and stature. That's what he should be doing.
Sure.
But you watch what he's doing now. He's standing in the pocket, and then he's instantly throwing it without looking.
Sure.
And that is the biggest issue I have. And I don't know if he's audibling out of plays that were getting sent in, or he's just doing this out of some necessity that he thinks that his arm is bigger than the or the cornerbacks covering his receivers.
It makes sense if it's a blitz package coming at him where he
Sure.
has no time.
Sure.
Where it's 3-step drop and you got to throw it or get rid of it.
Right.
Well, that makes sense. But if it's not that case, what the fuck are you doing, my guy?
That's the problem. And he's doing this. He did this multiple times, and that is why they had turnovers early in this game.
Right.
Because this has been like the on repeat nightmare for Bills fans, because that's all he's been doing is he's been trying to get the ball out, forcing it to Stephon Diggs, because apparently the drama there is now coming back, allegedly.
I don't think it ever left.
Well, here's the thing about it. Every single wide receiver in the NFL wants the ball.
Sure.
Every single one. It doesn't matter what team you're on.
Sure.
If you're a number one, you want the ball 24/7, a la Jamar Chase.
Sure.
That's why we have the whole 24/7 conversation.
Sure.
With Diggs, it's the same thing. But you get this on every team. But the problem is when you are a small market team, and let's face it, Buffalo is, it gets blown up out of proportion.
Sure.
But it's still there. But the fact that he has his brother making tweets about he's got to leave, he's got to do that, that becomes a distraction in a small market team.
See, here's the thing. I don't think the disagreement or whatever ever left. I think it was tempered by the winning, because
of course,
let's face it, winning fixes a lot of
it's the biggest Band-Aid in the world.
So you look at and I'm not going to run through every game, but you look at their season up to this point where, okay, they had the overtime loss to the Jets. Okay, freak thing there. Then beat the Raiders, beat the Commanders, beat the Miami Dolphins. So things are riding high. Things are looking real good. Then they come back and the loss to Jacksonville. Hey, all right, that happens. Then you beat the Giants, you lose to the Patriots, beat the Buccaneers, and then you've got back-to-back losses to the Bengals and now Denver. But you look at some of the numbers there. Diggs had, 102 yards, 92, 111, 120, 121, 100, and then, wasn't even the leading receiver against New England, Tampa Bay. He got 86 yards against the Bengals, and then he for this game he only had 34 yards. Which is where you started hearing this stuff. And listen, if this was coming from like some insider, like from one of the insiders, like Rappaport or Schefter, or pick your NFL insider, and like, oh, there are reports that Stephon Diggs is unhappy. All right, there might be something to that. There might not be something. That could just be somebody saying shit for the sake of saying shit because they're pissed off and they said it in the heat of the moment. This is coming from his brother, though, and at the end of the day, the three in my personal life, the people I trust most is obviously my fiance, and then family. And I know if it were me and I'm hearing somebody saying something from my brother, there's probably some credence to that.
But that's at the same time, if Stephon's really feeling that way, why are you going to your brother and having him post it on social media? Unless you really are trying to get out of there. But here's the problem that I've said multiple times. The contract you signed is so tight for cap movement to another team, nobody can take you. So I understand your frustration, but at the same time, you signed the deal. It's like a poison pill contract in the NBA. That's essentially what you signed. So we can't move you.
Right.
So even if you want to go to Dallas or someplace else, we can't move you unless there's some team that's willing to take such a massive cap hit that they have to basically dismantle their team for you. So unfortunately, you're stuck for a couple more years.
Should also mention that's not the only tweet Trayvon Diggs put out. He put out another one today. Quote, let's not forget he didn't start going off till bro got there. Close quote.
Again, we understand this point, and if you're mad because the stat line for Diggs is 3 and 34, well, guess what? He's the second targeted receiver on the team. Dalton Kincaid was the one that got more targets, and Gabe Davis did too, but Gabe had another abysmal performance, in my opinion. 6 targets, 2 catches.
Yeah.
But that's the problem. That Josh gets locked in. He's trying to do too much.
He's Brett Favre.
But yeah, he's the modern day Brett Favre.
Nice to hear some national media picking up on this.
Yeah, which thank you to whoever's picking it up, but please give credit to the ODPH because we've been saying that's the first ones to say it. But here's a crazy stat line too. Compare his stats with Patrick Mahomes too.
Okay.
For this season. Notice how comparable they are.
Right.
But Mahomes is winning.
Sure.
That's the only difference here. When the Bills are doing it, because let's not forget, when the Bills had that big bounce back win against Miami, everybody was anointing Josh the MVP. The Bills were going to the Super Bowl, no question about it. And then look what happens.
I mean, at some point, obviously a change needed to get made with the team, and obviously they did so with Ken Dorsey being gone and then Joe Brady stepping in now. But at some point, you got to stop passing the buck and start looking at Josh.
Mm-hmm. Completely.
Because statistically, he is number 1 in the NFL this year in interceptions. Mm-hmm. He's got 11. When you look at the most interceptions by a quarterback since 2018, which is the year he was drafted,
it's Josh.
He's number 1 with 71. Baker Mayfield's number 2 with 69. Then you've got Jared Goff with 61. Mm-hmm. Flip it over, and then you got the most turnovers by a quarterback since 2018. It's Josh with 94 turnovers.
Yeah.
And Jared Goff is number 2 with 85.
Yeah. Because he plays too reckless.
Josh Allen, let me pull it up here because I admit this is the one thing I didn't pull up. So he's got 94 turnovers. He has played 87 games.
Yeah. Oh, trust me. I am fully aware of that stat.
The other concerning thing to me, and the reason I say I don't think the locker room issues have left, is you had the stuff at the end of last year between Diggs and Allen. Mm-hmm. Then you had the stuff persist into the offseason, and then, don't worry, things are cool. Then there was the report or the story about how they went to go run onto the field for OTAs or practices or whatever it was, and Josh said to the team, hey, whatever you got going on outside of the field, your personal life, your family life, leave it there. Let's focus on this here. And now you got Latavius Murray, according to reports, who has been with the team for all of this is his first year. Now, granted, he was drafted in 2014, but he's only in his first year with Buffalo. Mm-hmm. You've got Latavius Murray calling an offensive or a players-only meeting last week.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you add all this together, something's going on in that locker room, and there's a disconnect and there's a dysfunction. What the hell it is, I don't know, but McDermott's got to nip it in the ass.
Well, no, that's the problem right there. It's McDermott. See, that's the thing. It takes 2 to tango, and he has been a problem this season too, which the one thing that's been flying under a lot of radars, but it showed up completely last night if you're really watching the tape. Who's their defensive coordinator this season?
Leslie Frazier.
No, he's not.
No, yeah, you're right. It's McDermott.
Yeah. So McDermott is the DC, and he's the head coach, too.
That's the other thing we got to talk about, that fucking field goal at the end. How the fuck do you let 12 guys stay on the field?
Exactly.
Because admittedly, I wasn't watching the game because I don't root for either of these two teams. The only rooting interest I had in this game was fantasy, and that was because my opponent had Allen, Cook, and Tyler Bass going. But I'm like, I don't got to watch the whole game for that. I can just check the stats periodically. Mm-hmm. But I heard how the game was going, and I did catch the end of it. So I caught them as field goal, saw them call the penalty for 12 men on the field, and I, like probably 99.9% of the people watching that game, went, oh, somebody must have gone, shit, I shouldn't be on the field, and running off the field. They go to the replay, they pull out the telestrator, and they start counting, and 12 men dudes are literally standing on the field.
Yeah.
You're professional athletes who have been doing this since Pee-wee days, since you could walk in diapers. How the hell do you do this?
Exactly, that's the problem.
That's inexcusable.
Because McDermott is trying to do too much, and he's trying to cover the ground there. of the defense.
Yeah.
Because the defense is playing like shit. The defense is playing awful. I understand about the injuries. Don't get me wrong about that.
But you also had some of those same guys injured last year that are injured this year.
Exactly.
So you were great last year.
Because the problem is McDermott is spread himself too thin. He needs to put in an interim DC, whoever it is. I don't care who it is right now. Hell, get Rex Ryan out of the booth. I just said that. Get somebody in there to take that off his plate. Because that is one of the biggest detriments we have on this team. Because when Josh makes mistakes, and granted, we have known this many, many times, the defense has usually bailed him out. But I'm sorry, they have looked sloppy, and especially with how they played in that final quarter yesterday.
Right.
There was egregious pass interference, which why Johnson was still arguing about that after the play, I don't even understand. That was all on you, and you can't make that play. You got burnt. And I don't know where your safety was that was supposed to be watching you over top.
Well, from what they were explaining a little bit of this between Get Up and First Take this morning when I was watching the videos back on YouTube, and it was essentially what it was. It was back to back zero blitz, where it was basically like, all right, we're going to blitz the shit out of people, and it's basically like 1-on-1 over the top, and it was just a fuck up on whoever was covering because he should have known what was going to happen there, but just got burnt.
Yeah, but still at the same point. You got burnt, but you got there has to be a plan in place.
Right.
And that's the problem they didn't. And they've done this multiple times this season. It's showing up, especially when they're losing close games like they shouldn't be doing. But you take a look at everything they've done this season when they've lost.
Right.
It's come off a big win that everybody's anointing them as Super Bowl champions, which is like, no, you have a long way to go. You're in one of the toughest divisions in the league.
And you got one of the toughest schedules coming up.
Exactly. You haven't won shit. But yet you sit there and you are prancing around like you've won the damn thing. You haven't won anything. If you had 13 more seconds to go back in time and fix things, you probably would have. But you didn't.
Boy, those Bills in 13 seconds.
Exactly.
It's like the fourth time. No, I mean, the thing is you look at the standings, it's like, oh, hey, you know what? Bills are doing pretty okay. They're 5-5. They're in second place in the AFC East. But then you look at the fucking standings, and it's the Chiefs in first at 7-2, Ravens in second at 7-3, Jacksonville in third with 6-3, Miami 6-3, Pittsburgh 6-3. That's 3-4-5. 6 is Cleveland at 6-3. Houston's in seventh at 5-4. Cincinnati's at 8-5-4. Indianapolis is at 9-5-5. And then you've got Buffalo at 10-5-5, and then Vegas at 11-5-5. And in case you're curious how Indianapolis is ahead of Buffalo and Vegas, it's because they won the tiebreaker based on the best win percentage in conference games. Mm-hmm. So right now they're up Schitt's Creek without a paddle.
Oh, exactly. No, they're out. They're out. And that's where Bean is going to have to sit there and do some magic this offseason.
Yeah.
He really is. And you know what? If you can try moving Stephon Diggs at this stage, if he's so unhappy, put a feeler out and see what team is going to take him. Take him with that contract. That's the one he wanted to retire in Buffalo. He wanted to stay there the rest of his career.
Yeah.
Well, you signed that deal. And unless you're planning on doing some reworking, it's not going to happen to get you out of there. Because you know what? I'll even make a bold prediction. We'll do locks and leaps for this.
Okay.
All right, so the lock is Diggs will probably be there next season.
Okay.
The leap is if they can rework his deal, they're going to go get one of the illustrious Cincinnati wide receivers, whether it's Mr. Boyd or Mr. Higgins, to come in there and fill in that spot. Mark my words. If they can move them, they'll get them, because I know one of them is a free agent next year, if I'm not mistaken.
I think Boyd is. I can look it up.
And they have 3 legit number ones on that team. So if they can make some movement happen, they'll do it there. Because somebody needs to come into that team. And if Murray is trying to do this, yeah, I'm sure he's trying to rally it being a veteran, but still the aesthetic coming out of there is not working.
So yeah, Boyd is on the final year of his 4-year, $43 million contract, so he is the unrestricted free agent. Jamar Chase is on the third of his 4-year, $30 million contract. So either way, you're going to have to pay out the nose for these guys, because you look at the numbers they put up in their first few seasons in the NFL, especially a dude like Jamar Chase. He's only making $30 million on his contract. He's averaging $7.7 million a year. That's criminally underrated for him, but granted, that's the way the rookie pay scale works, so I get it. But even if Buffalo is able to pull this off and do that, it's going to cost them.
Oh, it's going to cost them no matter what, but that's the problem you have. You either deal with the headache you have now, and you hope winning makes everything go away, or you're going to put yourself in a bigger headache trying to move them. Like, pick your poison.
Yeah.
That's the situation you have right now, because what you have is Josh trying to manage this team, ruffling everybody's feathers because he got away from what he was doing, because I don't know if he's too busy enjoying being on TMZ or whatever he's doing on his off time.
Right.
In that situation, like, listen, I can't figure that out. But the fact that he's regressing, he's pressing himself too much that he thinks he can just sling the ball and it'll just go through everybody. You know what? Jay Cutler used to do that too.
Yeah.
And look how it worked out for him. Just saying.
Yeah.
And now, but you have the modern day Brett Favre. Guess what? If he's winning, everybody's saying he's great though. And that's the thing. You take a look at the stat line between him and Mahomes, and that's where I say one team has a winning record, the other team is 500. And it's not going to get any better for the Bills because this was a must-win game for them. They didn't do it.
It worked well. He's always had the turnovers. It's worked well when the Bills were able to cover and win, and nobody really cared, but now they can't cover, and now they can't win.
Exactly. So until they can find a way to figure that out, it's not going to matter a damn. I'm sorry. It's not going to do anything, especially when you're fumbling the ball. But, hey, James Cook, you had some fumbles too. He's not the guy.
I'll say there's, 4 turnovers in that game, but it should have been 5.
Oh, it should have been 5. That's the whole problem. They played sloppy, and they show it. Because obviously some players don't want to be there anymore. But you know what? That's a situation that the front office needs to figure out.
And like we said, it doesn't get any easier for Buffalo. They've got the Jets this upcoming Sunday. Then the rest of the season is as follows. On the road playing the Philadelphia Eagles. Bye week in Week 13. Then they're on the road playing the Kansas City Chiefs. At home against the Dallas Cowboys. On the road playing the Chargers. At home against the Patriots. And then on the road playing the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah. So we'll have to wait and see how they go from here. But I'm going to tell you right now, season's done. I hope I'm wrong. I hope I have to come out here and apologize for that statement. But there's so much dysfunction from McDermott and Allen on both sides of the ball. That until that gets figured out, they're going to be a 500 team at best.
I just want to remind everyone listening at home, in case you forgot, Rich, Ken, and myself all picked the Buffalo Bills to win the division this year.
Oh, yeah, because you know what? On paper, they should have. But for some reason, they can't pull it together, and they can't stay out of the big media hype that they were buying into.
Here's the other thing with the Bills, too, is, and I know some Buffalo fans are going to be like, oh, no, they're fine. This is just a bad loss. You couldn't beat the team that's your division rival, and I'm not talking Patriots, your division rival that is your biggest measuring stick. Let's face it. You might hate the Patriots. You might dislike the Patriots. Some of you may even loathe the Patriots. Who is your biggest measuring stick in that division? The Miami Dolphins. You couldn't beat the team that your biggest division rivals beat by 50 in the same season. And you want to sit there, and some of you want to sit there and say, oh, we're better than Miami. Miami can't beat the good teams. Yeah, well, Miami still beat the bad ones.
Oh, no, you're absolutely right.
And Denver is a hot piece of shit. Sure, Denver fans.
Denver's a piece of shit.
Denver, kudos to you. You pulled off one of the most. You pulled off one of the most improbable victories this season. That I can think of off the top of my head. I'm sure somebody's sitting there going, "Oh, well, that one was more improbable." No, whatever. For this intents and purposes, this is the most improbable win. Your team's a hot piece of shit. But when you got the Miami Dolphins who went out there and hung video game numbers on you of mythical proportions and beat them by 50, and yet you got Buffalo Bills fans sitting there going, oh, no, we're still good. We'll still win the division. We'll still make the playoffs. And you couldn't beat this team, and you basically turned the ball over 5 times. You just were fortunate and recovered one of them. Stop.
Exactly. No.
Stop.
Bills fans need to be quiet. Like, listen, I have nothing nice to say about him at all because, like I say, this is where the problem is. Until McDermott gets a DC in there to take the pressure off him so he can go manage the team, they're going to keep doing this. And until somebody sits Allen down and tell him, go back to running the ball when you have to and letting the play open up instead of just trying to gunsling, they're going to be, this is wash, rinse, repeat.
And learn how to throw the ball away because, as I mentioned, he attempted the ball 26 times. 25 of them were actually targets to receivers.
Yeah.
So he only threw the ball away once.
Yeah, that's, like I said, it's modern day Brett Favre. When he wins, he's great. When he loses, everybody outside of Buffalo knows it. Everybody in Buffalo knows, like you touched upon, he walks on water in Buffalo, which is a good thing because we need somebody, but we need, more importantly, somebody to tell that somebody, this is how you win against teams you should have absolutely ran out of the stadium. You didn't. That's why you're stuck in this 5-5 record. It's not going to get any better. So until somebody steps up and does a thing, Bill season's a wrap.
I mean, let's face it. It's the only thing they got going right now because we know how the Sabres are doing.
Exactly. But we are Rangers town here, so we won't get into that.
We are. But hey, listen, Buffalo the fans ain't got much going for them right now.
No, they don't. That said, Hit us up on the hashtag ODPH pod. What is your thoughts about the current state of the NFL? How's your team doing? We let you know how ours was doing, but now we want to hear about yours. Let's talk about the week that was. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
You ever wondered what comics Mark from Vale Mai is into? What Zach from Left Behind's favorite MCU movies are? Well, Metalcore Nerds is the show for you. My name is Sean Mott, and here at Metalcore Nerds, we cover the latest things in pop culture, whether it be Star Wars, Marvel, DC, AEW, and everything else in between. You can listen to the show every Monday on Adobe How at 7 p.m. Eastern, or find it anywhere you find podcasts after it debuts on the radio station.
Coming back for another segment on this edition of the ODPH podcast. Pad, last segment was some fighting words, but now let's actually talk about some fighting, shall we?
Yeah.
So this past week, UFC 295 went down.
Yep.
A lot of headlines coming out of this one. 2 big title fights transpired. We have to recap the crazy night of action that was. So, Pad, let's get into it.
Yeah, so this one took place this past Saturday from Madison Square Garden in New York City with an announced attendance of 19,039 folks in attendance. So we're going to start with the main card. You had, in the featherweight division, open up the card. Diego Lopez defeated Pat Sabatini via knockout at 1 minute and 30 seconds of the first round.
They were not messing around.
Yeah, so real peek ahead spoiler. Every fight on the main card was a knockout. Mm-hmm. Somebody had a place to go and people to see.
Well, you know what? I love seeing this because everybody was going for broke.
Yeah.
And that's what you want to see. When you go to a fight, you want to see this. I mean, sure, submissions are great. Technical work is great, but sometimes you just want to go and see somebody, the test of wills.
Sure.
This is what we got here. Great opening bout.
Yeah.
And, really set the pace for the rest of the night.
Next up was in the lightweight division where you had Benoit Saint Denis defeat Matt Frivola with a head kick knockout at 1 minute and 31 seconds of the first round.
Absolutely nasty.
Holy shit.
Absolutely nasty. Love this, though.
Yeah. Next up was in the women's strawweight division where you had Jessica Andrade defeat Mackenzie Dern with a knockout in 3 minutes and 15 seconds of the second round.
Not really surprised by this one.
No.
Like I said, Andrade is tough.
Yeah, she is.
Like at this weight, this is perfect for her. So.
Yeah. And then in your co-main event of the evening for the vacant UFC, for the interim UFC heavyweight championship, you had Tom Aspinall defeat Sergey Pavlovich with a knockout, specifically punches, at 1 minute and 9 seconds of the first round. So Tom Aspinall is your current interim heavyweight champion. So in theory, some point down the line, you should expect to see Tom Aspinall take on one John Bones Jones or whoever the hell he beats, because he is adamant his next fight is against Stipe Miocic.
Well, the crazy thing about this fight is Aspinall threw that almost without any force behind it. And to see him come back, obviously coming back from that gruesome knee injury.
Yeah.
To see him back in this kind of stance was very, very cool to see.
Sure.
Pavlovich is no slouch by any stretch of the imagination, but to see Aspinall really kind of stay in the pocket, really take his time and do some precision striking, that was a really cool thing to see here. And obviously this kicks off a lot of possibilities.
Sure.
Because obviously the fight that should happen is John Jones,
right?
Like you alluded to.
Right.
But the question at this stage of the career is, what does John want to do?
Well, and the other thing, too, to keep in mind is, like we mentioned, he's got the injury, torn pectoral muscle, fully off the bone, not even partially. 9-month recovery. 9 months puts it at August.
Yeah.
And that's if it's the standard 9 months. If it's shorter, it's somewhere in the summer months, but if it's longer, we're talking next fall.
Yeah, that's the one thing that we have to kind of wait to see how it shakes up.
So then you got the whole John thing. What the hell are you going to do with Aspinall in the meantime, in between time? Because something tells me he ain't going to want to wait for 9 months. Hell, based on let's just say for this intents and purposes that it's John versus Stipe in the next fight, and whoever wins. Pick your fighter, John, Stipe, whatever. But then you get this medical suspension coming out of there because, you know what, they got a orbital broken or something like that, where it requires, they got to have some time off because, hey, you can't hit him there. It's broken. So you really going to tell me Tom Aspinall's comfy sitting for a year without a fight, even though he's interim champion?
No, he's going to fight.
No, he will, but it's just, what are they going to do?
Well, that's the whole thing. You got to kind of take a look at the rankings and see.
Oh, funny you mention that. I do have them up.
All right, let's talk about it.
So obviously, as we mentioned, John Jones is the champion. Tom Aspinall is the number 1 ranked fighter. He is the interim champion. Cyril Gane is number 2. Sergey Pavlovich is number 3. Stipe Miocic is number 4. Curtis Blades is number 5. Alexander Volkov is number 6. Gelton Almeida is number 7. Sergey Spivak is number 8. Tai Tuivasa is number 9. Marcin Tybura is number 10. Derek Lewis is also number 10. UFC.com/ranking, folks.
I think it's supposed to be 11. It looks like a typo.
Yeah, that does look like a typo. Number 12 is Jarenzo Rosenstruck. 13 is Alexander Romanov. 14 is Marcos Rogero de Lima. And 15 is Rodrigo Nascimento.
Well, I mean, this is kind of an interesting scenario, like we touched upon.
Fuck it, Aspinall versus Brock Lesnar. No, I'm kidding.
Well, that would make a lot of headlines too.
Rock ain't doing anything WWE these days.
Well, I mean, like I say, anything is possible. But looking at that, I mean, I would imagine he would get somebody in the top 5.
Conveniently enough, their contracts are owned by the same company these days.
You could slide somebody over if you need to.
Yeah.
The situation here, though, it's tough. With Serial gone would make a lot of sense.
Sure.
But then again, he wouldn't. I'm just trying to think of opponents that Aspinall has not faced.
Let me pull up his record.
And to my knowledge, I don't believe that they have fought.
Let's see. So running through the list, and I'll be bouncing back and forth between web pages, folks. So bear with me. Sergey Pavlovich, he fought in his last fight. Obviously, he's in that same division.
Mm-hmm.
Marcin Tybura, who is also in that division, the number 10 fighter, defeated him. Curtis Blades, he lost to. That was back in July of 2022. Where is he? He is in that division. So, well, you could do
Blades is 5.
You could do a rematch there. He submitted Alexander Volkov. He defeated Sergey Spivak. He defeated Andrei Orlovsky. Based on your whole thing there, he has not faced one Curtis Blades.
Blades.
He lost.
Serial gone.
Serial gone. No, he has not faced Serial gone.
See, Serial gone would be kind of the X factor here. I just don't know if you can give him a title shot right now.
Yeah.
I don't think you can. The other name though that was not mentioned that's in that kind of upper echelon talk is Yelton Almeida. So that would make sense too, but that's a hell of a jump from 7 into title shot.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't necessarily know what would happen there. I think the one thing we just have to look at is how quickly Aspinall wants to get back in the cage. And I think now being the 3rd United Kingdom champion in the UFC, he's really going to want to carry that momentum, really get on a card sometime soon, and really step up and face somebody. But the question becomes, we know that John is out for a while.
At least 9 months.
And is John going to want to fight him when he comes back? Or is he
even going to be the champion by the time he comes back?
Well, that's the whole thing with John is just, I mean, he's interim until further notice, but unless he just says, you know what, this has been too much, I'm at this age.
Because you know what's going to happen with all this is whoever Aspinall goes to fight in the interim time between now and when John comes back, just because it's going to throw the whole thing into utter chaos and, the best laid plans go to waste and all that, he's going to lose. Mm-hmm. And then it's just going to throw the whole plan out the window, and they're going to have to figure out what the fuck they're going to do, and it's going to throw every plan out the window.
Yeah. So we'll have to kind of wait and see what Aspinall wants to do. As for Pavlovich, I mean, you can kind of take your pick right now. Like, I think unfortunately,
31 years old. He turns 32 in May. And then for his record, it's his first loss since he lost to Alistair Overeem in 2018.
Yeah. So, I mean, he's got a couple options he wants to do. I mean, we'll just have to wait and see, because honestly, I think it just depends on what...
I think you give him a couple fights, maybe he works himself back in there.
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole thing.
Because you look at the record, he knocked out Curtis Blades, he knocked out Tai Tuivasa, he knocked out Derek Lewis. So he's got some folks there. He's got a few feathers in the cap.
He's got some people he's definitely made some headway with, but it's just a matter of, like, when you start talking about where do you go after a title shot.
Yeah.
That's the problem right now, especially when you had 2 marquee names that are tied up, unless Miocic is like, I'm not waiting around, I want to go fight. If he wanted to jump in, that does change the dynamic a little bit. But it depends on what he wants to do, or if he's saying, you know what, because he's at the stage too. It's like he's near retirement as well.
Right.
So does he really want to go through a grueling camp to win it one last time? Then you hope John is ready to come back.
Right.
And that's assuming he beats Aspinall or Pavlovich. It depends on like what kind of situation he's in. To see if he wants to come back and do that. I mean, and let's face it, he didn't look great in his last fight against the DC way back when.
Right.
So I don't know. This is where John Jones is still running this division until further notice. So now we all have to wait to see what he wants to do.
Yeah.
And I think that that's going to be the biggest domino to fall. I just fully see Aspinall taking on somebody in the meantime.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, he's not going to sit there and wait a year.
Yeah, I if I'm the UFC, I would definitely say we got to get him somebody to fight. So
Right.
wait and see on that. But, kudos to him.
Yeah.
Great showing, especially great story coming back from the injury.
And then in your main event was for the vacant UFC Light Heavyweight Championship, and your new champion is Alex Pereira, defeating Jiri Prochazka via elbow knockout. That was at 4 minutes and 8 seconds of the second round.
Well, this one went the way I thought it was going to go. 2 men enter, 1 man leaves.
Yeah.
And this is a situation that we knew when these two were scheduled to fight, somebody was going to really lay somebody out.
Mm-hmm.
I will say this, though. Pereira knocking out Yuri was surprising because Yuri went down. It did not look like he was out, though.
Uh-huh.
That's my only argument with it. So I'm not going to say it was a quick stoppage per se, but
Right.
I do not like how they stopped it. Like, I was personally not a fan. However, Prochazka was completely fine with it. He said, I get it. I'm not going to argue about it. He's a different guy, though. Like, he's just different personality. So
Yeah.
I could see him just using this as motivation to come back.
Jiri's a whole different animal. I'm looking at his record. This is his first loss since he lost to Muhammad Lawal at Ryzen World Championship Grand Prix 2015 Part 2. Folks, he fought twice in one night. That's not a misprint. That's not a typo.
No, he's legit.
He fought a gentleman by the name of Vadim Nemkov, who he knocked out, and then the dude retired.
Mm-hmm.
And then he fought Muhammad Lawal in the same goddamn night.
Yeah.
That's insane.
It's wild. No, he's just a different cat.
That
like,
was on, like I said, that was on New Year's Eve 2015.
Yeah. So I think now the question mark is Jamal Hill ready to come back? Like, that's the first thing I would be looking for, because I think they're not going to waste any time with him getting him back into a title shot against Pereira. Like, that makes the most sense to do.
Right.
It just depends on that Achilles injury and where he's at with
Right.
it.
Which, I mean, he did go down with that injury back in July, so, yeah, maybe.
I
Maybe
mean,
not.
if they want to do that, that would make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
As far as the rest of the light heavyweight division, I mean, it's a tough question. Because the thing is with Pereira, he could literally fight anybody there,
Right.
but doesn't make sense to the rest of the division.
Right.
Because he moved up in weight, and that's how he got his shot. So, unless they wanted to do something insane, but I just don't see them doing that, is doing an immediate rematch with him and Prochazka.
I mean, going off of, and I did a quick Google search, and this is according to the Hospital for Special Surgeries, hss.edu. It says, typically after an Achilles tendon repair, patients can expect 3 to 4 weeks of immobilization, non-weight bearing, using crutches. It is usually about 6 to 9 months before you return to all activities, such as running or jumping. So if we're talking 6 months before he can return to activities, he got injured in July, so you got August, September, October, November. We're 4 months in. He's still, if this is like a typical recovery and by the book, he's still not even back at full activities yet.
Yeah, so like I say, that's the biggest question mark. Like I say, he would be the first one to plug in if he's ready to go.
Sure.
If he's not, Pereira does have some options, but they're not exactly great, in my opinion.
Right.
Because
I'm looking at the rankings. You got Jamal Hill is so Pereira's the champion. Jamal Hill is number 1, but got to take him out because we don't know what his status currently is. Jiri Prochazka is number 2, but you're not going to do that fight again. Number 3 is Magomed Ankalaev, who, looking at Pereira's record, does not appear he's fought. No, he's not fought him. So there's an option there.
There's an option, but go back to his record. He just had that no contest against Blachowicz.
Yeah.
So
it's funny you mentioned him. He's the number 4 fighter.
Right. So that's a tough sell.
Yeah.
And that's where I say, like, you could plug him in there, but
oh yeah, that was a DNF there. Yeah, could not continue.
Yeah. So
yeah.
Like I say, you can't really do that. Like
that was against Walker. That wasn't.
That was the
Blachowicz. Blachowicz was a split decision.
Right.
That was a draw.
Yeah, it was a draw. So like you can't like you could, but you can't.
So yeah, you got Ankalaev is 3, Blachowicz is 4, Alexander Rakic is number 5, Nikita Krylov is number 6, Johnny Walker number 7, Anthony Smith is 8, Volkan Ozdemir is number 9, Ryan Spann number 10, Khalil Roundtree Jr. is number 11, Asmat Murzakanov is number 12, Dominic Reyes is 13, Alonzo Menefield is number 14, Dustin Jacoby is number 15.
Yeah, so this is going to be an interesting decision for the UFC, what they want to do. I already know Pereira was trying to call Adesanya up there, the 205.
See, I didn't see that one. I mean, I was looking at somebody at the because I don't think anybody's going to come down from heavyweight to fight him. I was looking at middleweight. I did not see Adesanya, but the first name that jumped out to me because I was looking at somebody maybe in the middle of the division there. You know, maybe isn't doing anything. I mean, you got Kelvin Gastelum there at number 11 in the middleweight. Hamzat Chimaev is number 8, but he's on the rise. I don't think he'll want to fuck anything up.
No, Chimaev he's you talk about different cats. He's a different cat.
Yeah,
he could decide to go up there if they want to and run crazy. I see. This is where things get very, very interesting, and I think that it just depends on what they want to do with Pereira. Because one thing we have to remember, and this is something that I mentioned last week, but I'm just reminding because I know you're going to sit there and go like, "Oh yeah, that happened." You take a look at his year in the UFC.
For who is this?
Pereira.
Okay.
He came in, won the middleweight championship.
Yep. Looking at that.
And now he won the light heavyweight championship.
Yeah. He beat Israel Adesanya. That was back in, this was in a calendar year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, almost to the day.
Yeah.
So he beat Israel Adesanya via TKO punches at UFC 281. That was on November 12th, 2022.
Yeah.
He then won the UFC light heavyweight championship on November 11th, 2023. Holy fuck. That's a hell of a year.
Yeah. In a calendar year, he became a double champion.
Wow.
Like, think about that.
That's impressive.
That is impressive. Like
usually most guys, it's a couple of years.
I mean, I'm not saying Hall of Fame, but
it's to the credentials.
You have to give him his respect.
Yeah.
Has no ground game to save his life that we've seen.
This is true.
Pereira,
9 wins, 7 knockouts, 2 decisions, no submissions.
Yeah. So like I say, if they put him against Blachowicz, it's going to be a lay and pray. It's going to be one of the most boring fights in the history of time, unless Pereira knocks him out in the first round.
Yeah.
Like literally, it's going to be him versus Adesanya again.
Well, they did that fight once. It was a split decision.
Yeah. But like I say, you can't do that with Pereira.
Yeah.
Like I say, I think it just depends on if Hill is ready to go. That's the fight you do. Otherwise,
look at somebody from middleweight, call them up, have them go up.
Well, I think that the UFC is just going to kind of sit and wait.
Yeah,
because if they wanted to talk Adesanya and moving up, even though I hope he takes a lot of time off, he's fought way too much.
I think he's alluded to as much.
Yeah, that's a box office fight. People will tune in to see it. It's a rivalry, so people will tune in to see it.
Yeah,
I just don't want to see it at this stage, so a lot of waiting is going to happen. And as for Prochazka, I would not doubt that he gets somebody in that like 3 to 6 range.
Sure.
Just to fight somebody, because I think he's going to want to get back in there. Against who, I just don't know. Like, I mean,
these things are booked out for a while though, because you got to figure something like this. It's going to be on one of the numbered cards.
Mm-hmm.
And for what I can see on Wikipedia, so 296 has got Leon Edwards versus Colby Covington, and then if that's for the welterweight title, then it's got for the flyweight title Alexander Pantoja against Brandon Royval. That is on December 16th, mind you.
Mm-hmm.
For the UFC 297, that's in January of this upcoming year. That one has got Sean Strickland against Dricus du Plessis for the middleweight title. Then you've got UFC 298, which is in February at a to-be-determined location, which that one is going to be for the featherweight title between Alexander Volkanovski and Ilya Topuria. Then you've got UFC 299, which is as far out as I can go, according to the Wikipedia pages, where that one is UFC 299. That one's in March, and that one's got Sean O'Malley taking on Marlon Vera for the bantamweight belt. So we're looking at least middle whatever part of next year before we're talking light heavyweight title.
Yeah, so a lot of things are going to happen in between then.
Yeah.
But it's still exciting times to watch, and like I say, for Pereira, he's got to celebrate it. And much like the UFC is celebrating something as well, too, because it has now been 30 years.
Is it really?
Of the UFC.
Wow. Good for them.
Yeah, which, I mean, how crazy is that?
Especially if you have ESPN Plus, because if I'm not mistaken, all of the past pay-per-views are on ESPN Plus. the most recent one gets added, I want to say a couple of weeks after it airs. But go back and watch that first UFC 1, just how wild it is.
Mm-hmm.
I've watched some highlights. It's fucking nuts.
Yeah, I mean, just how it started in being the one-day tournaments to now, it is legitimately a recognized sport all across the world. Mixed martial arts is.
Yeah.
And how the UFC has done it. I mean, not everything has been roses, but it still has, made its impact on pop culture.
Yeah.
And it's still very, very relevant in today's society.
So looking at the Wikipedia page for UFC 1, the general and the part about background, it says general regulations agreed upon were no doping probes, no holds barred, no biting, no eye gouging, no mandatory gloves in combative uniform, bare knuckle contest, no judges scores, unlimited 5-minute rounds with 1 minute rest period between, changed to no time limits for UFC 2 since no UFC 1 fight lasted 5 minutes, and then knockout, tap out, or corner stoppage indicated by towel are the only determination methods. Referee could only halt a match pending the corner's decision. That is all sorts of wild.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's absolutely crazy.
Royce Gracie fought twice on this card. What the fuck?
Yeah,
Ken Shamrock fought twice.
Great. Yeah, like I said, they used to do the one-night tournament. So
wait a minute. Sorry, I didn't read far enough. Gracie fought 3 times.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
That's why I say the Gracie name is legend for many reasons, and that is one of them.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, like it's no joke.
Gerard Gordeau fought twice.
Oh, yeah.
God damn.
Like I say, the UFC was built different during that time period. Very, very different.
Holy shit.
And to see it now evolve, I mean, we'll kind of end on a little fun notepad.
Okay.
30 years of fighting.
Sure.
What has been your favorite fight?
Oh, Christ. Any of the I know there's been a bunch. Any of the knockdown dragouts, like they both leave the fight bloodied.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's rock'em sock'em robots. It's stand and just throw until you can't throw no more. Those don't get me wrong. I enjoy the technical ones, and I enjoy just the ring generals, I guess you could say, of just them figuring out their guy and absolutely just picking them apart, like we've seen John do over the years, like we saw GSP do over the years. But there's just any of the ones where it's been just like they're just throwing bombs, they're throwing hands, and somebody's going to drop.
Yeah, like I have to say, it has been something to watch over the echelon of time.
Any of the Frankie Edgar ones were good.
Frankie's is always one of my top.
Frankie's good.
Yeah, one of my top fights. For me, it kind of ranks like I'll give you my top 3 of all time.
Okay.
My number 3 is Robbie Lawler versus Rory McDonald.
Holy fuck.
Which still to this day gives me goosebumps seeing Robbie with a split lip, like bleeding out. Rory is sitting there with his eyes more or less swollen shut.
Yeah.
And Robbie is still screaming like a madman that he wants more. And to see how he defeated Rory, I mean, still one of the most amazing moments of all time.
Yeah.
Hands down. My number 2 is Stephen Bonner versus Forrest Griffin in the Ultimate Fighter finale.
Oh, okay.
Because I remember where I was and how my phone blew up during that.
Right.
Of people messaging me, are you watching this on Spike?
Right.
Yes, that's legitimately was a thing. And just how everybody was tuning in because they're like, this is on free TV. And if you'd been watching the show was very good this first year. To see these two go in the cage, leave it all in there, was an amazing, amazing fight. Like I say, just one of those that have always stood out the test of time with me.
Mm-hmm.
But it's never been my number 1.
Okay.
My number 1 will kind of shock some people because everybody knows I'm not a big fan of this fighter because I've always been a Michael Bisping guy. So
yeah.
I've never been a big Dan Henderson guy, though. But I will give the devil his due. Him against Shogun Rua won.
Yeah.
I remember where I was in the basement of my old house that I used to live in and watching 25 minutes of just pure mayhem.
Yeah.
And I just remember when that fight got done, I was getting asked by our guy Dino, shout out to Dino, Molson, everybody that was in attendance was like, how are you scoring this? I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm like, I honestly don't know. Like, this was one fight that it was so back and forth, so absolutely crazy, so insane to watch that when Henderson got the win, I was not even questioning it. I said, you know what? He deserved it because this is by far and away the wildest spectacle I've ever seen. And I was like,
Yeah.
this is why I try telling people to watch UFC.
This is now that I think about it, the one that probably stands out to me the most, and I think about it, is probably Anderson Silva, Chris Weidman.
Yeah.
Just because that one, 4th of July weekend, it was July 6, 2013. You know, Weidman beat Anderson Silva, which that was his first loss in like 6 or 7 years. Looking it up, he hadn't lost since December or January 20th of 2006.
He's so dominant too. Like
he beat the shit out of everybody. Like, I mean, he lost to Yushin Okami at Rumble on the Rock 8 in January 2006. And then he knocked out his next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 opponents, submitted the one after that, knocked out the next two, had a unanimous decision, knockout, decision, submission, knockout, 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 and then he lost to Chris Weidman. Like, the dude just seemed so untouchable that in that stretch, like I read, he had like, what, 1 or 2 decisions in that like 6-7 year stretch that... and it was to the point where it was like if you watch WWE or WWF and like you've got that champion that just seems unbeatable. That like, oh, they're just beating the shit out of everybody. They're winning over everybody. And then you finally see him lose and you just can't believe it. That I remember where we were when we were watching that fight and we're like, holy fuck, like that actually happened.
Oh yeah.
And then you get the fight 6 months later where it was the rematch and the nastiest leg injury I've seen in UFC history.
Yeah, without question.
Hey.
Yeah, it's still gruesome.
And then the trilogy, him against Nick Diaz in the greatest fight in MMA history. Nick Diaz fought Anderson Silva high on weed, and it went the distance.
He's the GOAT, folks. No question about it. So many memories of the UFC in 30 years.
Yeah.
We can go on and on. We might have to do that as a bonus episode sometime. In the meantime, though, hit us up on the hashtag ODPHpod. What is your thoughts, first and foremost, of UFC 295? What was your biggest takeaways from that? Who do you think the champions are now going to be facing as they are now charting their own path into very high-profile divisions? And then, obviously, this week is the 30th anniversary of the UFC. So what has been your favorite UFC fight throughout the 30 years? I'm expecting a lot of people to hit me up on the social media, hit me up on the Patreon. Let me know. We can even do a deep dive about that and kind of maybe we'll do a rewatch or something. I don't know. We'll think of something fun for it. Either way, hit us up. Let us know. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
This is Tom from Tom Joe Lou,
This is Matt from Sideroom Sounds.
and you're listening to ODPH Podcast.
Wanna go where no one knows my name, to the desert, the oceans, or the plains. 'Cause I wanna...
Coming back for the final segment on this edition of the ODPH podcast. Pad, what you got?
Got a couple things to talk about. First of which is obviously the local minute and looking at the standings for the Federal Prospects Hockey League. That is, of course, the league where our local Binghamton Black Bears play in, and specifically at the Empire Division because, as I've said before, that is the division our Binghamton Black Bears play in. Another week, still in first place.
Yes.
So through 9 games played, they have a record of 6 wins in regulation, 0 games lost in overtime. However, they do have 3 losses in either overtime or shootouts. They're sitting with 21 points, and they're ahead of Motor City, who is behind them in second place with 19 points. Danbury's in third place with 11 points. Elmira in fourth place with 7 points, and then Watertown in last place with 6 points. Looking ahead, or looking back, I should say, at their schedule from this previous week, had played a couple of games here where they were both of them were at home. They played the Carolina Thunderbirds for both games, lost the first game in overtime, 5-4. Came back on Saturday, though, won by the final score of 4-2. Looking ahead to the games they have this upcoming week, they got 2 games, one of them at home. Home game is Friday, November 17th, 7 o'clock Eastern, where they're playing the Elmira River Sharks. And then Saturday, November 18th at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, they are on the road playing the Watertown Wolves. However, you don't have long to wait if you aren't able to catch them Friday, because they will be back home on Wednesday, November 22nd, for a game at 6 o'clock Eastern against Danbury. So for more tickets, information, all that good stuff, BinghamtonBlackBears.com. Then we got to mention some baseball awards because they are in the process of getting announced this week. The burning has been averted for thus far. So a Rookie of the Year and Manager of the Year have been announced. I'll get to those in just a minute. But so the finalists for Cy Young Award is for the American League, Kevin Gossman of the Toronto Blue Jays, Sonny Gray of the Minnesota Twins, and Garrett Cole of the American League, or for the New York Yankees. The match has been extinguished for this week, Major League Baseball. And then in the National League, it is Zach Gallen from the Arizona Diamondbacks, Blake Snell from the San Diego Padres, and Logan Webb from the San Francisco Giants. And then for American League MVP, the finalists are Shohei Ohtani from the Los Angeles Angels, Corey Seager from the Texas Rangers, and Marcus Semien from the Texas Rangers as well. And then in the National League, it is Ronald Acuna Jr. from the Atlanta Braves, Mookie Betts from the Los Angeles Dodgers, and Freddie Freeman from the Los Angeles Dodgers. For the awards that were announced, the one that was announced yesterday was Rookie of the Year, and both of these gentlemen won unanimously. So from the American League, it is Gunnar Henderson, the phenomenal player from the Baltimore Orioles.
From Baltimore, yeah.
Baltimore Orioles had a phenomenal year, hit 28 home runs, 9 triples, 82 runs batted in, and scored 100 runs. Hell of a year. First Baltimore Oriole Rookie of the Year since like the 80s, like 89 or something crazy like that. So, hey, kudos to him. And then for the National League, it was Corbin Carroll. He hit 25 home runs, 54 steals, and made him the first 25-50 rookie in Major League Baseball history.
Let's go.
By the way, the Diamondbacks did also make it to the World Series for the first time in 2 decades.
Yeah, it helps.
That helps. So he is Arizona's first National League Rookie of the Year winner. So, hey, kudos to him.
Yeah, kudos to them about that.
And then for the Manager of the Year in the National League, it was Skip Schumacher of the Miami Marlins. It was his first year as a big league manager. It was the fourth postseason appearance in franchise history. They went 33-14 record in 1-run games, and Schumacher became the 4th Marlins skipper to be named Manager of the Year. Do you remember the last one that I can remember?
Marlins?
Yes. I think it was Joe Girardi. I think Joe Girardi.
I was going to say heavy Girardi.
Girardi got it with them, bizarrely as that is. And for the American League, it is Brandon Hyde of the Baltimore Orioles. Deservedly so.
Yeah.
Because you look at what the Baltimore Orioles did last year. They lost 110 games last year. Not a good year for them.
No.
However, they flipped the script and they won 101 games this year and won the American League East. And he is the franchise's 4th Manager of the Year winner. So very deservedly so, I would say, for him. Kudos to both of those guys. For the other 2 awards, Cy Young will be announced this upcoming Wednesday. The MVP will be announced this upcoming Thursday. Listen, you know my opinion on who I think is going to win American League Cy Young.
Yeah, I would say so.
Otherwise, I burn this sumbitch to the ground. For the National League Cy Young, I'm going to guess Blake Snell. Just going out on a limb.
Snell makes sense. I would say it's him too.
For American League MVP, as much as it fucking pains me, it's probably going to be Shohei because, let's face it,
Reasons.
the writers love Shohei, and
Yeah.
this is voted on by the writers. And then for National League, I mean, listen, no disrespect to Mookie or Freddie Freeman. It's going to be Acuna. That dude was...
It has to be him.
That dude was stealing bases like it was a Black Friday sale at Walmart. Like, it was going out of style.
Wow.
He was nuts this year. And, hey, he's going to earn that MVP award.
Yeah, no, he definitely deserves it. He's my vote for it.
That's my guess. And then we got to talk a little bit of soccer news, some happy soccer news. An update to a story we brought to you a couple weeks ago regarding Liverpool player Luis Diaz. The good news is his father is back.
Nice.
His father got returned. Reading from an article on BBC.com. Quote, Luis Manuel Diaz, the father of Liverpool striker Luis Diaz, has spoken publicly for the first time since being freed by a Colombian guerrilla group. Mr. Diaz said he was made to walk, quote, too much with little sleep while he was kept in a mountainous area. Quote, I would not want anyone to be in that mountain in the situation I was in, he told reporters in a tearful interview. Mr. Diaz was abducted on the 28th of October in his family's hometown of Barrancas in Colombia. In a news conference on Friday, the 58-year-old said those days had been a very difficult time for him. Colombian police say 4 people have been arrested for being allegedly responsible for Luis Manuel Diaz kidnapping, according to local media. Police say that after a coordinated effort between Colombian and British authorities, a criminal group called Los Primos was dismantled. Mr. Diaz was held hostage until November 9th when members of the National Liberation Army, ELN, handed him over to United Nations and Catholic Church officials. Police had originally said that a criminal gang was most likely to blame for the kidnapping, but a government delegation later said it had official knowledge that kidnapping had been carried out by a unit belonging to the ELN. Close quote. So definitely a happy ending for him.
Very happy, yes.
There is a video floating around of the Liverpool player getting to reunite and see his father for the first time since in Lord knows how long. So, hey, definitely a happy ending for those guys, and happy to see them back reunited together.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we were watching the video before we hit air, man. It's awesome to see.
It's good to see.
Absolutely. Very quickly, to kind of round out the sports, in the NBA, the Knicks are 500.
Yeah.
Definitely improving in, a very interesting season thus far because
how about them Clippers?
I was going to say the Clippers.
Holy fuck.
I was going to talk about Philadelphia, but that leads right into the Clippers because Philadelphia, blessing in disguise, getting rid of James Harden.
Yeah.
Currently 8-1 in the standings.
Yeah, they are.
Right behind them is Boston at 8-2, Indiana, Miami, Milwaukee, and Atlanta round up the top 6 in the 7-10 range. Orlando, the Knicks, Brooklyn, Toronto. Granted, way too early to go on playoff talk, but it's very interesting to see. The Knicks are slowly putting it together, albeit though they still need to get rid of Randall and make some moves. I'm just putting that out there. Just putting that karma out there. And then on the flip side, Denver is currently the first seed in the Western Conference with Dallas right behind them, Minnesota, Houston, Oklahoma City, Sacramento round up the top 6. And Golden State, the Lakers, Phoenix, and New Orleans are in the top 10. And outside looking in, 3 and 6 of those LA Clippers with one James Harden. Not looking good right now. Just putting that out there. And if I'm not mistaken, on a 5-game losing streak.
Looking at the LA Clippers, let's see. Last 10, they are 3 and 6, and they are on a 5-game losing streak. Correct.
Yeah, so not exactly things are working out on that side of the fence.
Whoops.
Like I say. On the other side, though, the Sixers are sitting pretty and just watching everything go by. Went on an 8-game winning streak. So, like I say, the NBA is still too early, so not getting into a lot of the whole in-season tournament and all that jazz.
I'll say, what? You mean the in-season tournament isn't hyping you up and getting you to watch games this early?
Nope.
What?
No, what would have been cool if they just said the winner of this is guaranteed a seed at worst.
Okay,
and
I could get behind
if they
that.
did something like that, I think that'd be
that.
more incentive because then you'd see some teams really go.
A meaningless trophy and cash for the players really don't do it for me.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I'm sorry, just
the courts did for all of 30 seconds until I saw them all, and I went, okay, that's enough of that.
Yeah, like I said, it's not enough to really keep the attention span.
Right.
But something that is keeping the attention span is over in the NHL because those New York Rangers are 11-2 on currently a 3-game winning streak.
And currently 5 points ahead of the Carolina Hurricanes in second place in the Metropolitan Division.
Yeah, so big things happening there. But one big thing to close out with, your king, my king, the king, King Henrik.
Yes.
Inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame.
Deservedly so.
Yes, absolutely. So it was amazing to see emotional night, during his speech there. And, if you're not from New York, you might not understand his impact. He literally carried the Rangers on his back into the Stanley Cup Finals in every single playoff series. The only regret is we never got him a ring.
Came close.
We never got a cup.
Took some years off my life, but
the series against the Kings, still to this day, still have a lot of emotions with that one. But you know what? To our king, I mean, properly deserved. I mean, we could just sing the accolades of King Henrik. I'm just hoping that if the current team gets there, maybe just maybe, they'll make a spot for him on the roster so he can just be a backup for a day so he can just get out there on the ice and get the cup up one time.
They'll give him an honorary one.
Well, absolutely, because he deserves it. So, like I say, very cool to see him get inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame, and it's Blue Shirt Nation here all day, every day on the ODPH. So that's the only hockey highlights we have to talk about because they're currently 3-game winning streak playing those New Jersey Devils on the 18th, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That being said, for anything and everything it is the ODPH, you can find it at odphpodcast.com. That's it for this week. So for the one and only Padawan J,
fuck the Astros.
I'm your host, Ken M. Thank you as always for listening to the ODPH podcast, better known as the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour. We'll see you next time.
Gotta be down to the punch. Gotta be down to the punch. 'Cause they can't bring me